Hello again and welcome to the Australian Ghost Whisperer. I am of course joined by the Australian Ghost Whisperer herself, Caterina Legato. Hello, Caterina.
Hello, James. It's good to be here again.
It certainly is. And in our last episode, we actually touched upon some of the amazing things that have happened to you in your life. We're going to be going into detail about those in future episodes. There's a lot of interesting, crazy, wild stuff
Really crazy and wild.
Yeah, people are not ready. They are not ready, Caterina.
Oh, yes, they are. People love a good, scary story.
They love a good, scary story.
Tune in.
You've got them by the bucket load. So, yeah. Now, in this particular episode, we're going to actually go back into my history a bit and talk about some stuff that's happened to me that hopefully you can shed some light on.
Sure, I'd love to.
But it's going to also lead up to how we met. So there's a bit of an interesting story about how Caterina and I met. It's weird, it's wild, it's scary. It's all the good things. It's all the good things.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's dive in. So what I want to do is I want to go back to actually when I was about 2 years old. Mm-hmm. Because this to me is pretty strange. But my very first memory as a kid, and I'm going back to like 2 years old. Mm-hmm. Now, I've got a twin brother. My twin brother and I were in our bedroom at night. Mm-hmm. He was asleep. I was awake. And I remember this clear as day. And there's not many things you remember from when you were a kid, especially 2 years old. So this is why it strikes me as very weird. And what I remember is these beings they floated through the bedroom wall into the room. There's like maybe 3 or 4 of them. And they looked like they were made out of clouds and light. So they kind of looked humanoid, but they didn't have discernible features. They were kind of wispy. But as a kid, I remember looking at it and being like fascinated. Like I wasn't scared. I just looked at these things and was like, wow. And this is where it gets weird. I remember looking at my brother as a 2-year-old thinking, why is he asleep? Mm-hmm. Why is he not awake to see this as well? I wanted someone to witness what I was witnessing. Now, what do you think that was? Was that my imagination? Was I a mentally ill 2-year-old who was hallucinating? Did I accidentally eat some like Drano from the kitchen sink and was like tripping out? What do you think that was?
Children are often incredibly psychic because they are so fresh out of the spirit world. Okay. So that's why I see so many children who are able to see the spirit world because you're just fresh out of the spirit world. So there are many different forms of beings. There are like nature spirits, there's the fairy spirits, there are also spirits from other planets, other galaxies, and often they will come in and visit the earth environment. And so therefore I feel like they were like fluffy little kind of playful beings is the feeling I get with them. And they were not necessarily at all anything bad or negative, but they were just beautiful beings of light that were perhaps from another star.
Okay.
Yeah, so we are so multidimensional and we forget that we actually exist in other dimensions and the same with the spirit realm. And we're not the only species to exist. Like there's so many other different species that exist in other planets, in other star systems. So often we intertwine, we intermingle with them unconsciously and sometimes, as you did, consciously.
Yeah, well, look, I certainly didn't get the sense that they were negative or wanted to cause me harm. In fact, it was almost like they were doing like a little dance for me. And I do remember in my younger years growing up that I would often go to bed and I would sometimes see things moving around in my room, not like really vividly, but I could just sense things moving around and I always got the sense things were there to the point where I got older and I'd get scared and I would sleep by wrapping the bedsheet over my head No joke.
Yeah,
I used to,
believe you.
I used to get,
Yeah,
I used to get kind of like made fun of by my family because they'd come in the morning and literally I just had like a little air hole, this little air hole where you could see my mouth, where I breathe, and like a mummy, I just kind of like strapped myself up because I remember thinking if I just pull this over my eyes, it's not there, or they can't see me. I mean, that's kind of crazy. Like, yeah, I'm hiding under a sheet. But in my mind as a kid, I was like, if I do this, they can't see me and it's not going to bother me. So again, I know what imagination is, and I look back on that and I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure what that was. What do you think?
Okay, firstly,
give me your diagnosis.
Okay, look, imagination is our doorway to the psychic realms, to the spirit world. We are taught that our imaginations are something that isn't real, that we're just imagining. But our imagination is actually like a doorway, a portal to the spirit realms. And we are all naturally psychic. It's just that through our conditioning and schooling that we are taught that isn't real, it doesn't exist, and therefore we tend to just block it off. But as children, when we're born into this physical realm, we are all quite open and receptive to the spirit world because we're so fresh and new from the spirit world. So it's not our imagination, it's actually real. And our imagination is that part of us that allows us to explore the spirit world, to see beyond this 3D dimension, because realities and dimensions exist outside of this 3D.
Right.
So you kept saying, was it my imagination? No, was your imagination showing you that you were able to see those spirits, that you were able to see beings of light.
Right.
And often it can be frightening. I've had those experiences, and perhaps that there may have been some spirits in the home that were not meant to be there. And some, when you feel good, they bring in a beautiful vibration and energy that makes you feel good. That's really positive. So that's when you know that there's good spirits or beings around you.
Yeah, right. So, okay, well, look, so in my mind as a kid, I dismissed all that as like, oh, it's just imagination, don't worry about it.
But wasn't that something your parents said to you? It's just your imagination.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
probably.
When you still talk to little children on the other side, oh, no, it's just your imagination.
Yeah.
Brush it off. It's not real, but it is real.
Well, but this is the thing, right, is that there's no support system in place for kids who might see things like that and be in tune. There's no one to go, actually, you know what, it's this, don't worry about it. Like, there's no, you know what I mean? Like,
there isn't an acceptance and understanding for it, but that is now becoming a lot more accepted.
Right.
I have had, look, over the years of being in this work, a stream of parents bringing me their children because their children are claiming to see spirits or speak to the angels or speak to Jesus or speak to Mother Mary. And the parents are quite concerned. Is my child mentally okay? Are they? And then it's like, no, your child is really gifted. And a lot of beautiful high vibrational children are coming into the planet at this time. And they come in and they are extremely psychic and gifted, and they maintain those gifts. So therefore, you know, sometimes parents don't quite understand. And I'm like, no, this is a beautiful gift that your child has, and allow them to grow that gift and to feel good about that gift. Because that's how that child will become such a powerful being, because they'll be, yes, physical 3D, but also able to access the higher realms and be able to talk to the higher masters and beings that are here to help humanity.
Yeah, right.
So I feel we're moving out of that conditioning of all of this isn't real to we now want to be much more open and receptive to the higher beings, to the masters, to Jesus, to Mary, Buddha. People are wanting to explore more, and sometimes it happens that the children that come into those families are kind of challenging them to go beyond those boundaries to explore.
Yeah.
And this is how we become multidimensional beings, and this is what we were meant to be. It's just the programming and the conditioning
That makes perfect
that
sense.
shuts it all down.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I found that, like, I guess because I was in an environment where it wasn't talked about or accepted, I absolutely dismissed it. But so I grew up kind of like being interested in this kind of stuff, like, but I wasn't like, I didn't walk around going like, I believe in ghosts. But in my mind, I was like, oh, maybe it's possible, maybe it'd be cool to have an experience with a ghost one day, and then I know for sure. And all I've got to say about that is be careful what you wish for. because it happened and it scared the living shit out of me. So, and this happened as an adult. So again, went through life going, yeah, maybe it's real. I don't know. Don't have proof. I'm sure a lot of people feel that way. Don't have proof. Maybe it's real. I don't know. So anyway, as an adult, oh boy, did I get proof. A few times.
Do tell.
Oh, funnily enough, both of these things happened to me in the UK. So maybe the UK is chock full of ghosts because I lived in...
It's an older land.
Yeah.
It's much more history.
I lived in I think I lived in 3 places when I was in the UK, and 2 out of those 3 places had, ghosts. Now, the first one was in Edinburgh in Scotland.
Oh, wow.
And so my partner at the time, her and I were house sitting a place. And again, I remember this clear as day. So my partner and I had been out to see a movie. We got back to the apartment. She was in the bedroom reading a book. I was in the other room on a computer. And there was like old TVs kind of had push buttons, like the plastic push buttons on them. And I remember hearing like someone was trying to turn the button on. But again, when weird stuff happens, a lot of the time your brain doesn't jump to the weirdest outcome. It grasps for the most normal one because you don't want to think that something supernatural is happening. So I was just like, oh, it's an old place. It's probably just creaky in the wind, which doesn't make any sense. That makes no sense. It's like, what, your TV creaks, the buttons creak? It makes no sense. But in my mind, I'm like, oh yeah, it's just an old house, whatever. And then, oh my God, and I'm almost gonna get goosebumps talking about this. So I'm at the computer. Now, if someone walks up behind you and stands over your shoulder, even if you don't turn around, you can feel them there, right? So like if you're there now,
feel a presence.
Yeah, if someone came up right behind you, you can feel them. So anyway, I had that sensation that someone had just walked up and was leaning over my shoulder. I can feel it. And then a voice. And the voice said, "Who are you?" And I just went,
you jumped out of it.
Like, no joke. It scared the living shit out of me. because I knew in that exact moment, I knew I was having a supernatural experience because my brain had no point of reference. It wasn't like I could go, oh, this is that, or this is the wind creaking the house. It had nothing. Like something was there. I heard the voice. I heard it speak, and it asked me who I was. And I just, goosebumps over every part of my body. I jumped up and ran out of the room. And like, I'm pale as is. And my partner at the time was just like, you're almost translucent. Like every bit of colour had drained from your face and you were just standing there like, ooh. And in her mind, in that split moment, she went into survival mode and she thought, oh shit, something's happened.
Someone's having a heart attack.
No, she thought someone had broken into the house with a weapon.
Oh, no.
And she was thinking, what do I need to do to like, what can I
protect with me?
and I just stood up against the wall and I was like, there's a ghost in this place. It just spoke to me. And to her, in her mind, that was a relief because she thought she was about to have to deal with an axe murder or something.
I'd much rather deal with a ghost.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, yeah. So she was just like, hey, she talked me off the ledge. But she did admit afterwards, she was like, yeah, I got a bit of a weird feeling in that place because there were weird temperature drops, like things would get really cold and whatever. Now, here's where that story got proven to me. So it was like a split level house and a guy lived downstairs and we were upstairs, but it used to be the one house. So I saw the guy downstairs because his mother lived upstairs when we were house sitting. And the next morning he came to say hi and I was like, hey, I don't suppose you've heard any stories about there being a ghost in your mum's place? And he rolled his eyes and went, oh, not this ghost business again.
Uh-huh.
And immediately I'm like, okay, here we go. He obviously did not believe in ghosts at all, but what he said to me, he goes, oh, a few weeks ago, the woman who used to live in that apartment just knocked on the door to say hello. And she came in and she said, have you ever seen the ghost? And this guy, again, doesn't believe in that stuff, was just like, whatever. And she said, oh yeah, I used to see her all the time. She was like wearing like a Victorian maid's kind of outfit, and I'd see her. And so this guy was just like, this is a bunch of bullshit, go away. But to me, that was like confirmation. I was like, oh, no, she's there because she spoke to me last night. So anyway, I'm sure he thought I was crazy, but like, I know what happened. And the fact that the lady who used to live there backed it up, I was like, well,
there's your proof.
There's my proof.
Yes.
So that's my first experience as an adult that to me is irrefutable.
But I think it's amazing that you were able to even hear the voice, the sound of that spirit speaking.
Really? Is that right?
I think that's an incredible, clairaudience where you can hear spirit also. So you were obviously quite open and receptive to spirit. You hadn't completely shut down those terminals within yourself.
Right. Well, I mean, I didn't know that until that moment.
Well, there you go.
When I had the crap scared out of me. So this began what feels like a domino effect of these things starting to happen more and more. So eventually we moved to London. And in London, we were living in a tiny flat. And weird things started happening again. So things would happen like, again, it was my partner and I. Sometimes I'd wake up and I'd feel like there was a figure in the corner of the room looking at us. Weird things would happen, like a light bulb would just explode. Like I'm not talking about it would go out.
Yeah.
The whole bulb would just go. And when does that ever happen?
It does happen when you have many spirits in a home and the energy just changes so dramatically.
Right. Well, I mean, but under normal circumstances, light bulbs don't just explode. So that would happen. Sometimes I'd wake up and hear hissing noises in the corner.
So that was a very haunted environment from what you say.
It was terrifying.
Haunted, yeah.
And sometimes I would wake up, I'd feel something pressing down on my chest. Like it was really weird. So
the pressing down is often where a spirit is trying to take your life force.
Ew.
Because a spirit, that has been wandering around for a long time, they run out of kind of their own energy. So their soul almost needs to plug in and take a living person's life force so that they feel energized and can keep moving on.
Well, that's
so it's quite common to have that pressing. It's actually the spirit kind of plugging into a chakra.
So what you're telling me is this bastard ghost just looked at me and was just like, I just see you as a giant energizer battery, mate, and I'm going to take you.
It's an automatic thing, and humans do it also, where you see people, talking, or there's always, even especially in relationships, there's always, one partner who is a little bit more dominating than the other.
Oh, yeah.
There's always an energy exchange between people anyway, where you've got someone who's more of the taker and the other partner's more of a giver.
Oh, yeah.
So it's the same thing. So perhaps that spirit was perhaps a taker. So it was very natural for him or her to plug in and just take what it needed. It's all an energy exchange, and we do it automatically. We shouldn't really, but it's only because we can't maintain enough of our own energy and life force for ourselves that we tend to plug in and take from others what we feel we don't have within ourselves.
Well, I feel like that ghost doing that was deeply uncool. That was like, you can't take my energy without permission. That's not okay. That is not okay. Yeah. What a jerk.
But some aspect of you was willing to give, or it would not have happened.
I did stop it though. Like I woke up and it was just like, get the F off.
Yeah.
Like that's how I felt. So what happened is that I wound up telling my partner about it. I was like, look, some weird things are happening. And then again, she goes, I wasn't going to tell you this.
Oh, no.
That's not a good start to a story, is it? That's not a good start. I wasn't going to tell you this. But the other night, I was fully awake and I saw a handprint. I felt something pressing down on the bed and I was awake and I could see the handprint push into the doona. And I was just like, really? You weren't going to tell me that because you thought it didn't scare me. And now you've told me, and now I'm terrified.
Did you end up leaving?
I tried to find people to get rid of it in London. So, some Ghostbusters. That didn't work. So we did eventually... I've kind of blocked it out a bit. It was a bit of a traumatic period. We left eventually, but other strange things happened. And I do remember having, a lot of sleepless nights. There's actually some even weirder stuff that happened. I'm not going to go into it now. I'm going to file this under a future episode because it's probably an entire episode's worth of subject matter, but I feel like it communicated to me, and we'll get into that another time.
Okay.
We'll get into that another time. It's a bit too weird to bust out right now.
Okay.
So anyway, that was my second experience in a 12-month period of going, okay, well, this stuff is real. It's happened again. And, I had my partner who verified both instances, like she was there to sort of witness both of them. I guess I just wanted to, paint a picture of what that's my experience of, I guess, seeing a ghost, hearing a ghost as an adult. Now, fast forward to Australia, and we're coming up to me meeting you now. So fast forward a few years, and I've now got 2 infant daughters. And by this stage, my partner was my wife, and we were living in a suburb in Sydney in an old house. And for the first little while, everything was fine. I didn't notice anything strange. But that changed. That changed after a little while. So eventually I would wake up because it felt like someone was gently putting their hand on my leg and giving it a little push or a little shake. Now, again, your mind immediately jumps to something that explains it away. So in my mind, I'm like, again, it's my imagination. I'm half asleep. I'm just imagining it. Because you don't want to go to yourself, there's a ghost in my house and it's shaking my leg. No one wants that to be the truth. So I was just kind of like, it's nothing. But it kept happening and it kept happening. Usually I'd be half asleep because it would do it and wake me up. But then one night I wasn't quite asleep. I was awake and it happened. And that's when it was undeniable. I was like, okay, well, you can't excuse that with being half asleep, James, because you were awake. You felt that, you saw it, you know. So anyway, I spoke to a friend who was into spiritual stuff, and she goes, you know what you need to do, James? You've got to love free advice. You know what you need to do, James? You need to go in there and you need to assert your dominance. This is my place now. I know you're here, but, we live here now. You've got to leave us alone, blah, blah, blah. Tell it off. Yeah, boy, was that the wrong thing to do.
Absolutely. Then you end up in a big power struggle.
Oh, yeah, you do. because this old mate who was shaking me at night, he didn't go,
that was scary.
You know what, James, you make a good point. You are living here now. I better back off. No. He went, this is my place and you need to fuck off, mate.
You're the one who needs to go.
You're the one that needs to go. So what happened is every single night, because I was getting like a gentle shake on the leg, like maybe every let's say every 3 or 4 nights. It went to happening every single night and it was way more forceful. I could tell it was pissed off.
Yeah.
And I was trying to say, no, mate, you've got to go. And it got weirder. So it wasn't just the leg shaking. My friend also, who was giving the free advice, said to me, recite the Lord's Prayer because it'll make it go away. Now, was it going to work? I didn't know. But I was desperate. I was like, I'll try anything. So because I'm an overthinker by nature, Caterina, you can probably tell, I printed out the Lord's Prayer and stuck it on my wall because I was like, okay, James, if you wake up and you're freaked out, you're not going to remember the words, mate. So if you stick it on the wall,
oh my goodness,
you could just.
I've heard these stories.
You could just read it off the wall. So anyway, I woke up and I actually saw it. I saw it this time, and it was like was like a hazy outline of a person. So it was like they were there but not quite there. It's really hard to explain, but it's like I knew it was there and I could see it. I guess in a way it was like a stereotypical ghost, like a hazy outline of a figure. And so there I was, started reciting the Lord's Prayer, Our Father who art in heaven, probably shivering like a leaf. And the weird thing was I saw it back away. I saw it. I could, and it did. It backed off.
Because you lifted the vibration through the prayer. You lifted the vibration around you.
Right.
And you were probably less fearful.
So
you're almost creating a barrier of protection around you when you do a prayer or recite a mantra, or even if you sang a song that was a kind of a high vibe song.
Okay.
Anything like that will lift the vibration, and that way that's too much for any sort of lost soul.
Right. Well,
because they're a low frequency, so they're only comfortable in a lower frequency, lower.
Right. Well, it actually worked. So, but again, the weird stuff there, it really escalated. Like, and again, I'm probably going to forget some of the details, but like, here's another one I remember. I woke up because I could tell something was in the room, and as I sat up, I saw this bright flash of light in the corner of the room. Like, it was almost like someone had taken a camera flash, and immediately my head darted over to it to see what it was. And again, I remember this as clear as day, and it was one of the weirdest things that's ever happened to me. My head was made to turn away from it, like someone had got a remote control and pressed a button, and my head just went. Like, I was not turning my head away. I was not controlling my head.
No, it began to take control over you.
Yeah, it made me.
You were giving it your power.
Right. Well, it made me look away, and again, there's no way for your brain to process an experience like that.
No, it's not a logical thing that's happening.
No, like as it's happening, you're like, what? Again, there's no point of reference. There's nothing I can latch on to explain this. So anyways, so much strange stuff was happening. Oh, that's right. My wife at the time, she got slapped on the face. So she brought a
This is all in the same house.
Oh yeah. She brought a puppy home.
Oh. Okay.
And the puppy did a shit on the carpet, and I think the ghost who was like, "This is my house," didn't like that, and it gave her a little slap on the face.
Wow.
But this happened at not like, I'm talking like 7 o'clock at night. She was just in a room, and she came and told me, she goes, "I think it just slapped me on the face," and she even said, "I think it's because the puppy did it, poo on the carpet." So anyway, lots of weird stuff was happening. So there wasn't
a pet friendly ghost.
It wasn't a pet friendly ghost, and not a fan of me, it turns out.
Not at all.
So what I did, there was this shop that was nearby where I lived, and it was one of these stores that like sold crystals and all that spiritual kind of stuff. So I went in there and I was like, "Oh, please help me. What can you do?" And the woman behind the counter was like, "Oh, I've got just the right person to send." And I've gone, "Oh, thank God. I'm going to send, let's call her Betty. I'm going to send Betty around." And I'm like, "Great, send Betty around. This is going to be amazing." So Betty turns up, and now what did she have? I feel like she had some spray. It was something like a candle or a spray. No, I think it was spray. Let's say spray. And she's come in and she's like, "Right, I'll take care of it." And she's basically just walked around my place, spraying a spray in a few rooms, like giving her a little spritz here and there. And I had faith in her. So I'm like, "Oh my God, thank God Betty's here to save the day." Betty the Ghostbuster is here to save the day. So, Betty came and did a thing. Betty left. And lo and behold, it made no difference.
No.
It made no difference. Maybe the ghost in the house left me alone for maybe 1 or 2 nights.
I'm surprised it even did that.
Yeah, maybe it was just like...
Probably went somewhere to have a good laugh at the stupidity of Betty and her spray.
Yeah, he was probably like, what's going to be... No, a good way to torture me would be to be like, "You know what?
I'll make him think I've left."
Exactly.
Yeah, they can do that.
I'll give him 2 nights where he thinks I'm gone, and then I'm going to come back and mess with him some more. So that's what happened.
Yeah.
And I called up that store and I was like, "Hey, guess what? Betty's thing didn't work. Can I get a refund?" And no. They just made excuses or what. They didn't care. There was no good after service follow up. Let's put it that way.
So many stories like this, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll go into a lot of detail about that because I know you have a lot of stories about that.
Yeah.
About frauds. So what happened is I was ready to move house, right? Because
for sure.
Yeah, because I was like, this thing's
it's terrifying.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
And like you think about it, like I wasn't getting a good night's sleep.
No, of course.
Ever.
I've had many people who thought of moving house, selling house.
Yeah. And I guess luckily
can become a desperate situation.
Yeah, exactly. It was totally a desperate situation. So my ex-wife, she somehow got your number. I think that she worked in media, and I think a friend of hers had gotten you onto a TV show, and she by God's good grace she brought you wound up in my life. So my ex, she got your number, she booked you, she got you to come, and I remember knowing on the day that you came, I was just like, oh, please let this work, please let this work. Now, even though we're going to end on a cliffhanger, we're out of time for this episode. So we're going to end on that cliffhanger note, and we are going to come back in our next episode and talk about our first meeting and exactly what happened when you got to the house.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that
love to tell?
Let's do it.
Love to tell the story.
And maybe you can tell us a few of your other incredible haunted house stories, because I know you got those other bucket load as well. All right.
I'd love to.
All right, let's do it. So we're going to talk
See you back soon.
We're going to talk about our first meeting. We're going to talk about some haunted house stories that'll probably give you some sleepless nights. We're kind of like that. So it'll be fun. Let's do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
See you next time.
We'll see you next time. And please comment if there's anything that you would like to see on the show, or you want to give us some feedback, or even ask us a question, please comment. If you can like or subscribe in whatever way you're listening to or watching us right now, please do. But that's enough spooking for now. We'll say goodbye.
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 Bye.